I Heart Midwives is all about why midwifery matters. So if you're pregnant, looking to become pregnant, someone with a uterus, or even care about someone with a uterus, these stories are going to be relevant to your life. Hi, I'm your host, Cheryl Fuder. I'm a practicing midwife, certified homeopath, educator, and health coach. I believe deeply in the midwife's model of care, where pregnant women and people are fully listened to. Their provider gets to know them as a person beyond numbers on a chart, and a place where continuity of care is a normal part of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Join us for stories about the history of midwifery, modern midwifery, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and midwife life hacks. Subscribe for new episodes and why you love midwifery. Share that in the comments. So let's dive in. Today we have with us Nina, and Nina, we've known each other for a really long time. She
Yes.
helped design my logo for my private midwifery practice, which I still use everywhere. And yeah, I'd love for you to just dive in by introducing yourself and sharing why you love midwifery.
Well, thanks for having me, Cheryl. Yeah, we first were introduced to each other through Dancing for Birth. Back before I was even a birth doula, I was doing the branding for Dancing for Birth and um, really got my start into loving home birth and midwifery through Stephanie Larson. Like she really got me started with that. And she's, the founder of Dancing for Birth. And, as I'm building her website and doing all this branding content and like reading through her stuff, going, ooh, this really resonates with me. Tell me more about this. And like we're sitting in the same room and she's telling me about what a birth doula does and, how she had her children at home and what a peaceful spiritual experience it was for her. And at the time it wasn't sanctioned at the place where she lived. And it was a discreet process to have a natural birth at home, and it just feels so unnatural to even say that. But I my first child, I had planned a home birth with him and then went into preterm labor and had a hospital experience that I was totally unprepared for. Um, and then once I moved to Colorado and went through DONA birth doula certification process, like um, was able to support women in a hospital setting. That was really validating and supportive and helping women find their voices. And then having my own two home births with you there, which was wonderful. And just all this journeying into empowering women and myself to listen to our bodies and have a positive experience into transitioning to motherhood or multi-children experiences, and just in community with support of other women, and anyone else that was present. Like my son was there for his sister's births and my husband was there, and just feeling their reactions and how awe-inspiring it is was really incredible.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that you bring in this piece around how birth can be a community event, and not a community in the same way that like going to a music concert is a community event, but just this very intimate experience where the family is integrated into the birthing space. You mentioned
Right.
your husband, your son, your midwives. There might have been other, support people there
Yeah, I
of your
which
choosing, which
yeah,
makes a big difference.
right, exactly. Like with Shelly, my now 5-year-old, I think my mother-in-law happened to be in town and my brother. And that was really special synchronicity to have my brother there because he and his wife were having a hard time conceiving. And he got to witness, this beautiful birth experience with Shelly, and then went home and found out his wife was pregnant a month later.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So I'm
Wow.
like, good to have the mojo.
Hmm.
It was really special.
Yeah. In our modern day society, birth has been taken out of the home, it's been taken out of the family experience and really placed into this like medical, like secluded process where a lot of people have no idea about birth. And so the fact that your brother was able to, be there, whether he was like it, he was part of the experience and like be there immediately postpartum or what have you, he really got to like internalize this experience of like, oh, like birth is part of our human experience. It's part of our family. This is how we continue to create family. Um, and then his wife being pregnant just adds to that amazingness. So it helped, I'm sure it helped prepare him for the birth of his child too.
Definitely. And he mentioned that to me too. And you're absolutely correct in that. There is this removal of the fact that it is a natural process of being human to have birth, and in the same right, it's same with death. It's a very similar process of, you know, taking it out of the home and putting it in a hospital setting where you go somewhere else to birth, you go somewhere else to die. And it's a transitional process um, where it is so meaningful to have people around you that you love and that you want to have present available for you, and that transition of energy and being and existence can have a special significance um, for you and your loved ones, to be present, and like having that availability in a home setting or a hospital setting, like it's important to feel that your wishes are respected. And people that choose to have a hospital birth or death in that regard, it's like it's okay, but there's something, I don't even know if I can articulate the difference, that there's a sense of peace and special resonance to being uniquely your own, to have it in your own container, your own safety space. And I know in the birth world we talk about that a lot. Like a woman needs to feel safe. Um, a birthing person needs to look around and say, I can let go here. And
Mm.
even saying, okay, this person needs to leave the room, and like having the advocacy for themselves to say, yep, I can do that, um,
I think that's
is
a
met with more ease in your own home, I think.
sure. Yeah, well, and it just highlighted a point that I don't think enough people understand or realize when they're planning a hospital birth is, yeah, maybe you've met the person that will be present for your birth, and maybe they'll be present, maybe they'll be in and out because they're usually serving several people at once. But the staff, like they're all like, the nursing staff, labor and delivery, the pediatrician nurses, they're all amazing humans, and yet there's no relationship that's been built. There's no um either you have like an inherent trust or you don't. And I think that that's a huge part of this piece around like love and um being able to let go that you mentioned, is also being
Yeah,
able to trust that the people around you have your back. because
Yes.
bringing a baby into the world is not, um, it's not a, I'm trying to think of the
It's a
right
rite
word.
of passage.
It's a rite of passage,
Woo!
exactly. So like, we all go through rites of passages in different ways. um,
Absolutely.
but having like people that that are there, even if it's a solo rite of passage, you usually have a community around you that is supporting you in some way. And so,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I just was thinking about how that piece around trust and knowing that these people are there to support you and focused on you and your needs and your
Yeah.
baby's needs.
And that has an infinite variation of how that looks. And, there's no right or wrong way to do any of these processes in life, but
Mhm.
they have to feel in alignment with your soul and your body. And that was one aspect that I really resonated with Dancing for Birth is like your body knows how to have a baby. Listen to the sensation and the communication that you have with you and your baby to move a certain way. Like the kicks or the discomfort is there for a reason. It's a purpose to adjust and be in alignment with one another. And it's even like for me, I was a single mom with my son, and I was able to build a community of friends who had home birth, and my acupuncturist ended up being there. My midwife didn't make it to the birth, but she sent her assistant, and these women around me humming with me as I had these surges, and having their consistency as nurses and doctors are coming in and out, like really made a difference, um, to feel that safety. Um, I can't even imagine had they not been there, how different it would be. At one point, a doctor came in and yelled at me, like, if I didn't get a catheter, I might go blind. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you come back in 15 minutes? Like, I don't know. But, these women like advocating for me, like, like, you might want to listen to her. Like, here's what I've seen by being in the room the whole time. And um, just giving a voice of reason to uh, people that weren't present, was so helpful and grounding. And yeah, it gave me the ability to let go because I felt supported, and it's a brand new experience. Yeah, I'm grateful. That's all I can say. Like grateful to have that consistent community, and having other women around makes a difference. There's just that innate knowing of the feminine that has the ability to support that transition
Mhm.
in humming and being and supporting. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I know that you weren't planning a hospital birth. So I'm so grateful that you had like people that would be there and support you and that could be there. And so I was just thinking about how important it is to have that support in a hospital setting and in a home birth setting as well. But it's different in a home birth because, like I said, it's your one-to-one care provider. You've kind of been with them. I know that I've sent an assistant when it was preterm because I wasn't available. As midwives, we kind of take our breaks when we can when we're not on call. But I just think that that's so beautiful to have that feminine support, and maybe that feminine support's not the right kind for everybody, but they need to have like a person who has traveled the journey before, so that um when the road opens up, when there's a pothole in the road or a speed bump to go over, somebody is there with a map who says, okay, I've seen this before, I can at least pause time, so that we can create space for you to collect yourself so that you can kind of think about this decision in a different way than what you're already experiencing, because you're going through the experience and you're going through the process of
Right.
bringing this human into the world. And when people are asking you questions and kind of demanding information from you, your brain is not there. Your brain is your body and brain are experiencing this transition and this rite of passage that you're going through. And so people can be there to say,
Hold on a minute.
yeah, hold on. Let's integrate.
Situational awareness, please.
Yeah, integrate a little differently between like, okay, we hear your needs of, whatever that is from the healthcare side, but also like you need to see this person's needs who's actually birthing the baby. And I think that
Right.
that's a huge foundation of midwifery anyway, is that we really talk about the power and the autonomy of the person who's actually giving birth, and
Right.
really like acknowledging that like you are an autonomous human being who can make decisions for yourself and your baby, and really holding that in like a high regard. It's important.
We in our society spend a lot of time giving our power away.
In all different ways, in all different
In all
places.
sorts of different ways. And I think birth is a time where you get to hold your power if you choose to. Like there are situational agreements that you can choose to keep your power. And I think for me personally, having home births allowed me to keep my power. Being in a peaceful environment where the fear and the questions and distractions from needing catheters or checking blood pressure or placing needles or trying
having you be
to
in certain places and certain positions at certain times.
exactly, or like let me tell you this required script about pediatric care at this facility where you don't have the capacity to listen to said script that is longer than 30 seconds between contractions or whatever. It's like just having the space to be in resonance with your own flow and feeling the presence of energy that I felt a sense of reverence in having people witness that situation, to watch me be in power and to celebrate the transition for what it was, the giving of life. It was a powerful experience, and it didn't feel like I had to fight for it. It was just a presence that got to be. And that was the major difference. And at the same time, I'm very grateful to have the comparison to say, yes, I had a hospital birth, and yes, I had a home birth, and I would choose home birth every time.
Yeah.
And to be told, oh, you're too old to do this, and like that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah.
we are vast, powerful creatures, and to hold your power and recognize that you are so much more capable than our society gives us credit for.
Oh my goodness. I was so I'm reflecting on, and this we actually have a photo of it, so my memory of it is coming back to this photo, and it was after your third baby was born, and I'm sitting on your bed doing a postpartum visit with you because you had a really you had kind of a wild journey with your third. I'll let you tell the story if you want.
Okay.
But I just have this memory of sharing with your son and your daughter, who was only like 2, and she was kind of crawling all over and just happy and playful. And I was sharing with them like how your third baby was being born, and this is when the baby comes in through posterior. But I had, what did I have around me? There was a stuffed animal of a unicorn. And so I was like showing them with this like unicorn stuffed animal of the way that the baby was coming down and through your pelvis. And
Yeah.
just like there's this piece around like integrating the birth again, that like, you know, this whole piece around rite of passage that I love talking about. I'm so glad that you put those words back into my memory. But that there's an integration piece, and that is definitely skipped over in the majority of births. But usually with home births, we have the opportunity to have a space to tell the story, to um, you know, sometimes for the person who's giving birth, there's like spots that are like you don't remember, but because we all held witness to your birth, we're able to like help add in pieces. Or like you know, things that people might say that may or may not have anything to do with you. You know, for you, that piece around the catheter just is like, it's like there, like you remember that.
Yeah. Right.
But somebody might say something that doesn't have anything to do with you too, or they do, or you know, whatever it is, like those little things, they can stick to us. And so the ability for you know, your one-to-one care provider um to be able to like settle down. And I mean, I can envision a way that like OBs could do this. I'm like, you guys could do this too. Like, honestly, it really doesn't take that much. It's just an opportunity to open the conversation, to say, you know, do you have any questions about your birth? Do you have any, you know, spots where you don't quite remember, or anything that's sticking to you that's
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
you know, that's sticky. And so just the ability to integrate in that, uh,
But I
people
never
don't,
even saw that doctor again. You
yeah,
know, like she was
uh,
there, and like 15 minutes later, after she's yelling at me about this catheter, I was pushing him out.
mm,
And then after the birth, like I saw her in the elevator and she didn't even acknowledge me. And that was the last time I ever saw her. You know, it's like,
ew.
yeah. But, you know, the people that I invited into this space, like I'm still friends with,
Yeah.
you know, even though like I don't have any other context of seeing them or knowing them anymore. It's like living in different places and everything, but there's still a connection there. And it's interesting contrast.
Yeah. Well, and that's where like having somebody that's just there for you, like a doula, or, you know,
Yes.
your
Yeah.
midwife, or a monitrese, that's where somebody like that could really come into play, to be like, okay, were there gaps? Are there things that are sticking? Like, are there things that are confusing? Like, let's talk about them, so that um this rite of passage that you are moving through, you know, let's dry out your butterfly wings. It's like, you
Exactly.
know, like actually be
Exactly.
able to move some air through that.
Yes. And that is one concept from birthing from within that I really enjoy about you have an idea of what your birth experience is as it's happening. You have that vision of the euphoria of it after you have your baby in your arms. And then you have a different version of it and how you feel about it a month later, a year later, 3 years later. And it's okay that your feelings might shift around that experience. Um, and where you can feel power for that experience, where you know you have those gaps filled, is important. And to have a non-biased bystander to say like, yeah, this is, you know, something I observed, and you know, interpreting that for yourself is empowering. You know, it's like, okay, like this was my experience and I have my concept of it, and then these other people observing it, and how can I integrate that into what I remember, and learn from it, and like gain perspective on the experience to incorporate it in other experiences or other aspects of your life that continue to be empowering.
Mm. Gosh, I feel like we've already shared so many life lessons, but do you have a story about how midwifery has like impacted you, like in your work? Your last baby was 5 years ago. Oh my gosh.
3.5.
Three. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was
Yeah.
like,
No,
where are we
Shelly,
in
the first,
time?
yeah. Shelly was 5.5, and then Taryn is 3.5. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So 3.5
yes.
years ago. Wow.
Yeah. But they're already like, not babies anymore. It's incredible. But you're right. So I have shared how midwifery really has been an empowering, impactful presence in my life. And with these experiences with these women that have supported me through these birth processes and finding my voice, finding self-advocacy,
Mm,
um, recognizing that things that I need to do for myself that I can do for my children as well, and modeling those things for my children is important. And then how that's carried on in other experiences is like, so recently I have gotten into ceremonial body paint and doing that with pregnant people and young people of rites of passage, birthdays, and um, going through puberty, or a number of different ceremonial things, trans people changing their name, um, transition, like in all forms. It's another chance to give voice and advocacy and celebration to a change. And I think I really owe that to midwifery and the birth experience that kind of was the seed planted in finding this voice and this path that I'm on. And that has led me to, you're talking about integration. It's like I'm now doing coaching for integration,
mm,
um, finding that magic in the mundane of daily life and putting alignment to your soul's purpose into your daily life. How can you integrate that feeling of balance with nature and sustainability and being a positive influence on our existence as a global impact, um, as well as in your own
mm,
self-awareness, and um, really feeling what's within you and recognizing that uh, those um, the power to know, the power to act, the power to influence, the power to love and be is already within you. And just accessing that and integrating that in intentional choice. Um, it's it's an incredible experience to witness and to act upon,
mm.
and something I integrate with my children to have ceremony and ritual and intentional choices for all of us. And it all comes back to this spirit holding of midwifery.
Mm. I feel like that is so what an amazing role model you are for your children
Thank
and
you.
sometimes we have to learn these skills, or always we have to learn these skills because you know I don't want to blame society or anything, but it's the stories that we've grown up in, the stories that we're told about who we are and what we're meant to do here. um and yet we get to write our own path, our own story. And so I think that you're really demonstrating that in all the work that you're doing. And
Thanks.
it all started with, that opportunity to work with Stephanie Larson and design her
Yeah.
brand and
Yeah.
like How cool is
Synchronicity.
that? To just like be like, okay, here we are.
Yeah, definitely. Just, it's just being being open to opportunities that teach you something and the things that come into your life for a certain purpose, and just being open to recognize that, you know, there's a reason things come into your life, and um just appreciating the experience and finding things to be grateful for. And it's like I could have handled being a single parent very differently. um a lot of people are like, oh, you're handling this so well, and like not accepting to be a victim, and recognizing that there was nothing in my life that I couldn't do without my son with me. In fact, he's in this room right now saging himself.
Oh, that's so great.
Yep. Um, yeah, clearing the room for us.
Oh, thank you. I feel I
Yes,
feel it. It's
yes,
beautiful.
it's wonderful. Um, and that's important, the integration and acceptance. And I had a friend over last night who we did a ceremony um where we blow onto a toothpick and get rid of all of the negative energy or um frustrations that we feel, and we burn them and then bring that energy back into our hearts. And each of the kids, talk about the specific things they want to bring back into their heart. And this friend that joined us for this ceremony is like, they're never too young to have these ceremonies because they exist. It's like, we are in existence, like this is our experience. And not only does it give people tools um to put intention and meaning into their life and purpose in a positive way to influence their existence, is like, you exist. And it's amazing how um receptive they are to it. Like my 5-year-old is like facilitating the ceremony last night, and like, this is what you do and this is what we're doing it for, and here's your toothpick. Can I burn extra? I like to burn things. But that there's no wrong way to do that,
Mhm.
and that there's an infinite way to express gratitude and love, and that's the greatest thing in the world, the
Mm.
power of love. And
Oh,
in
and
midwifery,
how
we know, like, all the oxytocin, like all the wonderful things that love brings into the birth.
oh, and how children are an expression of that love, Oh, of the love that you bring into the world. And I always sometimes I tell parents, I'm like, you're wearing your heart on your sleeve. Like it's your heart is out in the world now. And like,
Yeah,
and so why shouldn't we have more ceremony and more honoring around that entire process? There can
absolutely.
be honoring during the pregnancy. Some common ones include, revealing the gender of the baby if that's known, or the baby shower, or another type of modern day
Blessing way.
blessing
Yeah.
experience. Um, so those are more common during the pregnancy, but who's creating ceremony and holding that for you during the birth experience?
Yeah.
And then who's, helping you integrate the pregnancy and birth, and um, you know, even with all of these things that we're talking about with ceremony, there's an opportunity to process past, or like current um, past traumas, current grieving, that because there can be grieving sometimes during pregnancy or during the birth
Yes.
process or postpartum. Um, and so like really having somebody there that's um, that
Holding
again has like
space.
holding the space, who's traveled this path with you, or traveled this path before, and can kind of create opportunities for, if feelings like having the baby gone from your uterus, if that's creating a moment of, oh, that's kind of sad, or that feels sad, like, okay, let's talk about that. Like, yeah, that's actually a very common and normal experience. Like
Right.
who's helping integrate those times and experiences?
Hmm.
It's, I mean, I just love being a midwife because I love being able to serve, um, and being a care provider one to one. And
Yeah.
that's why I chose the way I became a midwife and how I run my practices, because I just want to serve people in that very sacred way the best I can, right? I'm human too. So.
Absolutely. Well, and when you choose a midwife, it then becomes your choice. It's
Ooh,
like I chose you, I trust you, and there becomes a bond and a love that is palpable in that birthing experience. And you talked about my wild adventure with my third. It's like first two babies came very quickly. And Shelly likes to remember that Jacqueline called her a butter baby. She
oh.
once she finally, like, once my water broke and I was in active labor, it was 3 hours and she was out, no tearing. It was, I didn't make it into water. It was just on my knees in the bathroom. Here she comes. Better watch out. And this is how she is in life. And then Taryn, it's like we had the tub in the basement and I labored and labored and it was only 9 hours. And that's short in many relative experiences, but for me that was a long, difficult journey. And it turns out she was posterior, right? And like Ben was in your spot. Um, my husband was like, "Oh, look, her face." And we're like, "What? Her face?" And I'm sitting on your lap and propped up against the wall. So, props to you for wall sitting as I'm giving birth. Strong woman.
Yes.
Um, and she's just coming out and, using those dancing for birth techniques that she wasn't coming out. And I was laying in the water and then having to do that sumo pose where I'm doing the asymmetrical leg in the air to, get more room in my pelvis to finally let her out, and moved down enough to finally come out. After like you trying to like stretch the cervix and recognizing that it didn't have her hard skull to stretch out over, it was trying to go over probably what, her forehead. So it
Yeah,
just
like
kept
the front.
not stretching out. Yeah, and so that was all a difficult journey, but she came out and is her crazy little self. And it's interesting how birth experiences come and add to their character.
Mhm.
And, it's like Shelly having a quick butter birth and then immediately crawling up my chest and like bobbing to find the nipple and seeming frustrated that she couldn't move her own body. Like it seriously felt that way. And like, yeah, knowing her now, it's totally appropriate. And then Taryn just like, I'm gonna cuddle and take my time. Let's rest. Good. Just, just a different character. And it's fun to tell the stories and make comparisons and analyze how things build character and add uh, energy to an experience. Is just, it's magical. Finding that magic in the mundane. uh,
Yeah, I
birth
feel like
experience.
the birth experience is often a lesson in how to be the best parent for your child. I mean, I don't know if that's across the board, but I definitely see it a lot in my clients, and just how personalities come through, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, and
like
they're
you
all
actually
individual.
lived it. Yeah, you lived this experience, and now you're like, Ah,
That makes sense. Yeah.
makes sense now.
Hmm.
Well, I love all of our stories, and I'm sure we could probably have another hour where we share more and talk more about rites of passage and ceremony. Oh my goodness. And I would love for people to know how to reach out to you and how to find you um, out in the interwebs. So, will you share
Yeah.
where people can get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I am on Facebook and Instagram as Temple Body Painting. And
And
my
that's
website is
temple body painting, temple like a
Your Body is Your Temple.
thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. And I have a website, templebodypaint.com. So I can send you the links too if you have show notes or something you want to put them in.
Yes, they will all be in the show. They'll all be in
Okay.
the notes here below. So be sure to check out Nina on Instagram and Facebook. I love your Instagram posts with you
Thank you.
creating your artwork. You not only do body painting, but also I've seen you do gallery shows and other ways that you're using your creative energies to create more beauty in the world. And I think
Thank
that's just
you.
really beautiful.
Thanks. And if I can talk about integration one more time with that,
Sure. Yeah.
for women or, any parent that is, in the thick of it with really young children losing their sense of self, um, you are in there and you can get that back and use that time to percolate on who you are in sense of self, and remember that as they get older, start turning 2 or 3 and thinking about going into school, and that you have a little more space to remember who you are, that it's okay to have that time for yourself and to play to your interests and your love, because you're modeling the behavior for your children to recognize their own independence and autonomy in finding their own passions. And it's really fun to see how my children appreciate, um, my mom's an artist,
Oh,
and get to recognize that I do things for myself, and it doesn't feel selfish because I can still integrate them into my process and include them um, in my experiences. They come to my openings, they watch me paint, or they'll paint alongside of me. And it's important to share what you do with your children for yourself, so they can appreciate that for you, and they'll think about what they can do for themselves, and just know that that is okay, because you're modeling autonomy for your
oh.
children. Yeah, it's important.
And so powerful. What a great piece of parenting wisdom. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you so much for being here and sharing
Thanks for
about why
having
you love
me.
midwives. Oh.
I love
I
you.
love you too. Big hugs.
Mwah.
Oh.